Sometimes the best places to buy prepping gear are the places you might not think of. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome back to the channel. We are so close to reaching 100,000 subscribers, so take a look down below and see if you're subscribed to the channel. Many people who watch our videos aren't, and sometimes they don't even realize it, or YouTube has unsubscribed them somehow at some point. So if you like our content and you see that you're not subscribed, take a second to hit that button and it would mean the world to me. And help make sure that you don't miss out on any of the content that we have coming up. We live in a small town and we don't have a lot of stores to choose from when it comes to buying prepping gear and supplies. So we have to do a lot of our shopping online. But sometimes it's nice to be able to find something locally, especially if you need it fast, or you don't want the hassle of shopping online, or maybe you don't really want that paper trail letting anyone else know what supplies you have. So it's good to know what's available locally. Tractor Supply may not be the first place that most people think of to buy gear, especially if you don't have animals. You may have never even been inside one to look around. Let me know down in the comments if you have a Tractor Supply in your area, how close it is to you, and if you've ever shopped there. Because we have lots of animals, I do shop here a lot, but our store recently had a remodel and I have not walked around the whole store since. So I thought I would go in, take a look around to see what prepping related supplies I could find and bring you along with me. Let's go. I also want to mention that we're not sponsored by Tractor Supply. They didn't ask us to do this video. They didn't pay us to do this video. I just love to do videos highlighting what type of prepping supplies you can find at various different stores. First, I want to start with what preps you're not going to find here, and that's food and water, with a few exceptions that I wanted to go over. To be fair, Tractor Supply does sell water. They don't have much selection, and their price isn't very competitive. But if you desperately need water, they've got it. The benefit of a store like this that's not people's go-to store is that you often can find things at these stores long after shelves at other stores are wiped clean. So if a disaster or emergency strikes or is imminent and you're not prepared, if all the other panic shoppers have stripped the shelves bare at Walmart and the local grocery stores, often you can still find the needed supplies at stores like Tractor Supply that aren't most people's first thought, which is exactly why this video is so important. Besides this bottled water, though, they do sell things like barrels and IBC totes that can be used to store large quantities of water for emergencies. Granted, you can get these things a lot cheaper if you can find them used and be confident that they've only held food-related items inside of them. But if you can't find them used, or you don't want to have to worry about cleaning them or what they might have contained before, then Tractor Supply is a great place to come. They also sell rain barrels that you can use to set up a source of water for your property. As far as food, you can get a few items here for your short to medium term prepper pantry. I found a good selection of jerky and meat sticks at my store, as well as some nuts and candies, which are all fair game for the prepper pantry. One notable thing that I did find was this small section where they were selling ReadyWise brand long-term emergency food storage items. This section wasn't very well stocked at my store, and I think it's a new addition since the remodel. They had some number 10 cans, some meals, a bucket, and a backpack emergency kit, as well as some instant coffee and snack items. We did a video a few months ago where we compared different brands of emergency meals, and the ReadyWise meals were really not good. They were the worst of all that we tried.
That's bad.
It's bad? Is it as bad as it looks?
That's real bad.
But we only got to try their regular meals. Tractor Supply has these Pro meals, which are a newer addition to their line, and I'm going to venture a guess that these will be much better. In fact, I'm going to pick up a few that look good and take them home and try them out, so stay tuned till the end of the video and I'll share my review. I would also think that their single ingredient cans would also be much harder to mess up than meals. Just watch what you're buying when it comes to these cans. A lot of people assume when they see number 10 cans like this that it's always freeze-dried foods and they're getting a great deal. But some of these cans are dehydrated, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. I use dehydrated products, but if you're trying to compare prices, you need to be comparing apples to apples. It's always important to read your labels carefully with this kind of stuff, especially so that you really know what you're getting. Same with the buckets and the meals. This particular bucket contains their premium freeze-dried meals, like the ones that are sold up above, but a lot of the buckets and kits don't. They just contain glorified pastaroni sealed up in Mylar bags. So read carefully. When it comes to something like this survival kit, I think you'll usually find you can do better compiling your own kit when it comes to price and quality of components. But if you're just looking to get prepared quickly, then this could be a good place to start and add or replace items as you can. While you may not be able to get much food at Tractor Supply, one place where this store does shine is self-sufficiency. Being prepared and being self-sufficient go hand in hand. And in the interest of being more self-sufficient, Tractor Supply does stock a decent selection of supplies for food preservation. They have basic canning supplies, including jars and lids, and both water bath and pressure canning pots. These are the same ones that I have. They're very basic, but they get the job done. Some Tractor Supply stores carry ball canning jars, but all I could find at my store are these Anchor Hocking ones, which aren't my first choice of a jar. I'm not sure I've ever even used these before, so if you have, let us know down in the comments what kind of luck you've had with them. Of course, it's worth noting that it's not canning season right now, so it is possible that my store will stock more when it is. You may know that I believe canning is a very important skill that every prepper should have. Not only will it allow you to build your own shelf-stable food stockpile that you control, but it would also allow you to save a lot of your frozen food in the event of a significant power outage, and also to preserve whatever food that you can raise, hunt, or forage after a long-term SHTF event. A couple other things that they sell here to help with your food preservation. Number one, this diatomaceous earth, food grade diatomaceous earth. This is great for keeping lots of different bugs at bay. Tractor Supply also has a decent selection of mouse traps and other types of pest control as well, because it is very, very important to keep your food supply pest-free. Right near the canning supplies, I was kind of surprised to see a Harvest Right freeze dryer display. I know Tractor Supply sells them, but I didn't know if every store carried them, and I almost wouldn't have expected my store to have them, but they did. I almost didn't notice them tucked back here in the corner. Also, they look much smaller here in this big store than they do at home in my kitchen. My store has a large and a medium model and a few accessories, including Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, which of course you could also use for other things even if you don't have the freeze dryer. One big benefit I can see with buying a freeze dryer from Tractor Supply rather than directly from Harvest Right is if you do have issues with it right out the gate, you could presumably return it right to Tractor Supply and either get a new one or your money back, rather than having to go through the hassle of shipping it back to Harvest Right or having to fix it yourself. Besides canning and freeze drying supplies, Tractor Supply also sells food grade 5-gallon buckets that can be used to store your bulk dry goods, things like beans, rice, and wheat. They actually also sell gamma lids for the buckets here, which is awesome. These make your buckets air and water tight, but easy to access at the same time because you just tap the lid into the bucket. And then you have this lid here that you can easily screw on and off. Of course, if you want to use oxygen absorbers and or Mylar bags inside your buckets, you can get those here with the Harvest Right supplies like we just saw. As far as I know, they only sell one size of oxygen absorbers, but you can combine multiple lower CC oxygen absorbers to equal the amount of CCs that you need for your container. Once again, it might not be the cheapest way to go, but if you need it right now and you don't want to have to wait for an online order, it is an option. Of course, if you really want to be self-sufficient, besides preserving your own food, you can produce your own food. Right now, it's the dead of winter here in Maine, so my Tractor Supply does not have much along these lines. But in just a few short months, this is going to be a great place to get all kinds of supplies for raising your own food, including seeds and seedlings, seed potatoes, fruit trees, fruit bushes, chicks, and ducklings. Right now at this time of year, what they do have, at least in our neck of the woods, is maple sugaring supplies. We love knowing that we can produce our own natural sugar right from our own backyard. We've also gotten beekeeping supplies here in the past. I didn't see any of that here at my store on this trip, but I imagine that that might be a seasonal item. The next area that Tractor Supply is great for is going to be your backup emergency heat. This is something that just about everyone should think about, especially this time of year. We've had more extreme weather than ever before, so even if you don't think that you need it, it's always better to have it and not need it than it is to need it and not have it. The two emergency heat sources that we have and strongly recommend are propane and kerosene, and Tractor Supply stocks both. They carry the Mr. Heater Buddy line, which we have and love. These run on propane and they are indoor safe. They're designed to be run indoors. Tractor Supply also carries a full line of accessories for these Mr. Buddy heaters, like adapter hoses and other things. They also sell a larger Mr. Heater unit that heats larger areas of your home. The second type of emergency heater that we use and recommend are kerosene heaters like these right here. These are also indoor safe and great for an emergency. The important thing to remember is that these heaters are designed to heat a relatively small space, and they're not going to heat your entire house. So you're going to want to have a way to section off a single room or a small area to heat. Also consider whether you might have multiple different spots that you need to heat. For example, you might need to keep pipes from freezing in one area of the house and keep people from freezing in another area. Besides the heaters themselves, you can also grab both propane and kerosene fuels at Tractor Supply, as well as fill your larger propane tanks and grab a refillable kerosene can if you'd like to go that route. Don't forget to also pick up some fire extinguishers and carbon monoxide and smoke detectors if you're going to be using any kind of alternative combustible fuel inside your home. Another thing worth noting is that you can also get a wood stove at Tractor Supply. Having a wood heat source is the ultimate for prepping because they heat a larger area efficiently, and while you can only store so much propane or so much kerosene and they're both going to run out eventually, you'll likely always be able to find some source of wood somewhere or something that you could burn in the wood stove. And they can be used for both warmth and cooking. While I realize not everyone can install wood heat in their home, if it's something that you've considered, they do sell wood stoves, accessories, and the materials needed to install them at Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply also has tools for cutting wood in a grid down situation. Things like axes, hatchets, mauls, and wedges will allow you to cut firewood, whether for a wood stove or just an outdoor campfire pit, which could also be used for cooking. You can also grab matches, lighters, and fire starters at Tractor Supply. You can never have too many of these. Another prep you can take care of at Tractor Supply is backup power. If you're in the market for a generator or a portable power station, Tractor Supply carries the Champion line. They have options for all different needs and budgets. Dual fuel is a great way to go because it gives you multiple fuel options depending on what you have or what you're able to source. You can also pick up extension cords and gas cans at Tractor Supply, which you'll need for your generator. And don't forget to grab fuel stabilizer as well if you're storing gas. And rotate, rotate, rotate. A huge portion of any Tractor Supply store is dedicated to animals, livestock and pets, from large farm animals to poultry to cats and dogs, right on down to rabbits and guinea pigs. They have a great selection of everything from food and supplies to medicine and first aid supplies. I've just got to say, any store that welcomes animals is A-okay in my book. Any place I get to say hi to sweet doggies is going to be a favorite of mine. If you know me, you know I am passionate about preparing for our pets as much as I am for our humans. They are a part of our family and they depend on us. And we depend on them just as much, especially in the case of livestock, where they're usually also a part of our food supply as well and can contribute to that self-sufficiency that I was talking about. So it's important to make sure that their needs are going to be met during emergencies. We keep a stock and advanced supply of food, water, and medical supplies for our animals, as well as ourselves. And Tractor Supply actually has a lot more of these things for animals than they do for people. Moving on to some more human preps, you can pick up some basic tools and survival gear items here that could be useful in an emergency or survival situation. Hand tools that don't use power will be needed for cleanup, fortification, and lots of other tasks after a storm or a disaster. Tractor Supply also carries a pretty decent array of knives of every different type and size, from large machetes on down to small pocket knives, as well as multi-tools and knife sharpeners as well. They also have a decent selection of rope, cord, and cable, as well as a variety of tarps and plastic sheeting. And unlike some places, they actually have plastic sheeting here that's strong and thick enough to actually be useful for some prepping purposes. You can also pick up those classic prepper items here, duct tape and zip ties. Another couple of items with multiple uses that you can never have too much or too many of. Tractor Supply is also a great place to pick up these tough totes that are so popular among preppers for storing and organizing your gear and supplies. They have a few different sizes, including smaller totes that would be great for grab and go kits. This rolling toolbox might also come in handy for a grab and go, especially for someone who might have trouble lifting or carrying heavy loads. You can also pick up one of these metal trash cans. These can be great for keeping your food supplies in if they're not in glass mason jars or another rodent-proof container, because mice and rats can definitely chew through Mylar bags, plastic bags, cardboard boxes, and many other food containers, including plastic. They can even chew through plastic. So a metal container is great for keeping rodents out of your stored food. They can also be used for storing things like charcoal, which could be another great prep item for cooking in a power outage that you can also pick up at Tractor Supply. One more thing they sell at Tractor Supply are safes. Once again, in various sizes depending on what you need and what you can afford. If you don't have one of these, it could be a very important prep to keep some of your most valuable tools, well, safe. You can also pick up padlocks and chains from Tractor Supply's large selection to help secure the rest of your items and your property. My Tractor Supply doesn't carry much in the way of cleaning and paper products, but there are a couple of things that are worth mentioning. Here in the back of the store with the RV and marine supplies are these little packs of toilet paper. If you remember back to the big toilet paper debacle of 2020 during the pandemic, this was one of the last places that people were still able to find toilet paper after everything else was gone. This kind of illustrates my point about the value of thinking outside the box and looking for things in places that most people wouldn't think to look. Although hopefully, if you've prepped well, you won't ever have to be that desperate. I also found this bleach here, which caught my eye because it is a really good price and it's clear that it is a disinfecting bleach. That's what you really need for prepping purposes, whether it be for disinfecting water or contaminated surfaces. You have to look for this disinfecting verbiage, and many bleaches don't have it, especially discount bleaches. It still has a relatively short shelf life like any other liquid bleach, and I still recommend keeping some pool shock on hand, but it's always a good idea to keep and rotate through a couple of gallons of liquid bleach. Tractor Supply does have a small selection of flashlights and lanterns. In fact, we have bought many small lanterns like this. We keep them in our blackout box and things like that. So this is a good item to pick up here as well, some lights. I also found these little waterproof stick anywhere button lights that I thought were pretty interesting, and they were also on sale. So I actually grabbed a pack of these to have at home. I have never seen these before. While you're at Tractor Supply, don't miss their selection of books and magazines. It's just one small rack, but they actually have a really good variety of books on things like homesteading and prepping and food storage and all variety of things that could relate to prepping. I've heard some really good things about this backyard homestead book, and check out this Prepper Pantry book. This looks like a really, really good one. I think I've also heard some good things about this book as well. A few other notable items that I found at Tractor Supply that would be great for preppers are garbage bags and contractor bags. These are really important for taking care of any waste that is produced during an emergency situation when there might not be, garbage pickup. But they also have a plethora of other uses, everything from using them as a waterproof poncho in an emergency to filling them with soft materials and using them as a makeshift bed, and plenty of other uses as well. This flagging tape is a great thing to have. I keep some in my get home bag and my bug out bags. It's great for marking trails, remembering specific locations, and leaving cryptic messages for other people in your party. These transfer pumps can be great to have for salvaging fuel in a grid down situation. Tractor Supply also has Fix-A-Flat, which is a really great thing to keep in your car emergency kit. Don't forget to have a good emergency kit in your car, especially this time of year. I also found these things here at Tractor Supply that you can put on your boots to help keep from slipping on the ice. This is just a great all-around winter type of gear to have, but especially after an ice storm, if you have to be outside clearing debris and doing things like that, these would be really important to have. Finally, there are some personal items that you could pick up here at Tractor Supply that would be good to have an additional supply of. Good boots. Many people don't think about footwear. You will need good practical shoes or boots during an emergency, and it might be a good idea to pick up an extra pair for when the first one wears out. They also have some good socks here as well, which you can never have too many of. Tractor Supply has a great selection of work gloves as well to protect your hands, and nitrile gloves to protect from contamination when you need it. You can pick up some more protective gear here as well. They've got rain gear, they've got reflective vests, which would be great if you have to go outside and check for damage in a power outage. They've got hard hats and N95 respirators, all of which could come in handy during or immediately after a disaster. It's also a good idea to keep warm hats, warm gloves, and some hand warmers as well for winter power outages, as well as keep them in your vehicle, in your winter vehicle emergency kit, and your bug out bags. Those were the most notable prepping related items I found at my Tractor Supply store. Now, what about those meals? Let's give them a test and see if they're worth picking up. These are the meals that I got to try. I got the Thai-style coconut cashew curry, the pork chili verde, the beef stroganoff, and the breakfast skillet. And these are two meals that are very similar to meals that we have reviewed in the past from other brands, and even from the ReadyWise regular meals, not the Pro line. You can see that all these meals are pretty impressive in the amount of calories and the amount of protein in the meals. They are the type of meals where you just have to add a certain amount of boiling water and let them set. And like a lot of backpacking meals like this, they say they're 2 servings per container, but typically if you're a hungry backpacker or somebody in an emergency situation who's going without a lot of food, you're probably going to want to eat a whole pouch of these. So unless you have a small appetite, usually the pouches that say 2 servings are going to serve 1, and the pouches that say 3 servings are usually going to serve about 2. I do also have these insulated cooler style lunch box things, lunch bags, and I use these to put the meals in while they're getting rehydrated so that they stay warm. They keep the warmth, and I think it helps them cook better. I get these right at Walmart. I actually just picked up some new ones because the ones that we already have are packed in our luggage for our next trip, because that's a way that we use meals like these a lot, is we take them along with us on trips to save us a little bit of time and a little bit of money versus having to eat out at restaurants all the time. I heated some water in my electric kettle, and I'm going to start with the breakfast skillet. You can see the meal. It's got the eggs, the sausage, the veggies, and the oxygen absorber, which I'm going to take out. And this one calls for 1 1/4 cups of boiling water. All right, so I've got 1 1/4 cups of water. I'm going to pour that into this bag. I'm going to give it a stir, and then I'm going to seal it up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into the koozie, zip it up, set it aside, and get the other meal going, the next meal. Next, I'm going to do the curry meal. You know what I just realized? I assumed that this was chicken curry. I wondered why it didn't say chicken curry. I don't see chicken listed here. It says chickpeas. I wonder if this is oh, it's vegan. That's not what I expected. I expected chicken curry, but you know what? I'm going to give it a try anyways. It'll probably be really good. This one calls for only 1 cup of boiling water. There's the inside. It doesn't seem like much water, so we'll see. Sometimes these meals need to be adjusted a little bit. Sometimes you try one and you realize that the instructions are just a little bit off and you just need to add more water. Get that stirred up all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and seal it up. Tuck it into its bag and set it aside. Next, I'm going to do the Stroganoff. I'm really excited about this one as well because I love Stroganoff. And when we tried the other brands of meals, all of the creamy beef or Stroganoff ones were really good. And even the ReadyWise regular meals, that was the one meal of theirs that wasn't that bad. So this one calls for 1 1/4 cups of water. That looks really good. And it smells pretty good too. You can see the big chunks of noodles and meat. So I've got 1 1/4 cups of water. And give this one a stir. And then the final meal I'm going to do is the pork chili verde with rice. You can see each one of these bags features a different backpacker, which I think is pretty cool. This one calls for 1 1/4 cups of boiling water. Here's what this one looks like inside. All right, so I've got 1 1/4 cups of water. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there and give it a stir. This one actually smells delicious. And these are flavors that I love. All right. In just a few minutes, we'll see how these meals taste. All right, these have sat for at least 15 minutes because most of them said anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes up to 15 minutes. And I find it can be better to give them a little bit of extra time. It never hurts to give them a little bit of extra time, especially in these koozies, because they're keeping warm. And so they're not going to get cold, and they're just going to get a little bit better if you let them sit a little bit longer. So I'm going to try this one first, which is the coconut curry that didn't end up being chicken. I'm going to open it up, and oh, you can see it actually absorbed the water really well. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to put these out onto paper plates. It's going to let us see the texture and how watery or not watery they are, and also see how much food they really produce. And it's not going to make me a bunch of extra dishes that I have to wash. All right, so here is the curry. You can see it's a decent amount of food, but I definitely wouldn't necessarily want to have to split this into 2 servings. I would definitely probably always want to eat this all by myself, especially if I was backpacking or, you know, I'd been hungry in a situation without power for a while. But it's got the cashews. I love things like this. So I'm going to give this a try. It's a good texture. The flavor is not bad. It's not super curryish, and it's not super salty, which I do like my food salty, so I feel like I might put a little bit of salt on this, but actually, honestly, it's not super flavorful, but I could eat this just like this, and I would be happy. Next, I'm going to try the pork chili verde, because this was the next shortest amount of time. This called for 7 to 10 minutes, and I think that is because this and the curry meal were both rice meals, and so a meal like this is going to use instant rice, and that just fixes up so quickly. That's what I use in a lot of my homemade meals like this as well. I will say I like my chicken curry meal pouch much better than I liked this one, but it really wasn't bad. That was much better than all of their other regular meals that we tried. So let's try this one next. This one also is very well hydrated. So here is this one. Once again, it's a decent amount of food. I don't think I'd want to share this with anybody. Of course, if you had other things to eat this with, like if you had some tortillas with you, or you could make some tortillas, wrap this up in tortillas, you could definitely make a lot more meals out of it and feed more people. This one actually, if you put some side dishes with it, it wouldn't be bad probably to have this as at least 2 meals. Let's give it a try. There is a chunk of pork here, so I like that. It seems like there's quite a few chunks of pork. I think that's not bad. I can taste like the limey flavor, which I really like. My piece of pork could have been a little teeny bit more tender. I think it's sat plenty of time. That was one of the larger pieces of pork. It's definitely soaked up all the liquid it's going to. So I feel like if the pork doesn't get tender enough for you, you'd need a tiny bit more liquid, but not a lot. Once again, it's not super salty or super, super flavorful, but you can add salt easily. And that might be by design, because a lot of people complain about the sodium in these type of meals. So I think where ReadyWise is trying to make healthier meals with more protein and stuff, I feel like they're probably trying to combat against the high sodium. And that's something you can't have it both ways. You're not going to have low sodium in a meal and have a good salty flavor, which is what we like. All right, so next I'm going to do the breakfast one. This was a 10 to 15 minute sitting time, so it's had plenty of time. It doesn't look too bad. All right, so here's this one. You can see there is a little bit of liquid that didn't fully absorb, and the texture of the eggs is not that great looking. I haven't eaten any yet, but you can just see the texture. We have tried other breakfast meals like this, breakfast skillets, very similar to this, and I feel like they were a little bit better than this. I'm going to link that video for you guys down below so you can go back and see the other meals that we tried and see what they looked like and how we rated them. We tried a lot of those meals side by side, so it was a little bit easier. Yeah, you can see that this did not fully absorb the water. It has sat plenty of time. Let's see if things got tender. Here's a piece of sausage. Yep, that's tender. Let's do a potato. This is a huge piece of sausage. I'll probably leave that for Mr. Wicked Prepared, but I'm curious if it got tender all the way through. I'll eat half of it. Yeah, that pretty much did. So let's see. Let's try a bite with the eggs and the veggies and everything. Honestly, the flavor's not bad. And the texture's not really bad. I mean, the eggs they're not really the eggs are like kind of a weird texture, and it is a little bit extra liquidy, but this is not bad. Like, this is 1,000,001 times better than their other breakfast meal that we did in our other video. This is not bad at all. I mean, it could use maybe it's a little bit of extra seasoning. The texture of the eggs, like I said, a little bit odd, but this is not too bad. I'm going to bring this down and let Mr. Wicked Prepared try it. He is working on something right now. I don't think he's going to love this one.
You think that's better? Oh, man.
All right. Mr. Wicked Prepared's take on this one was, he said, it's nasty, basically. You can kind of tell the difference between he and I as far as pessimism and optimism, and also the fact that he has a much better memory than I do. So he really, really remembers the taste and how we liked the other brands. So I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think breakfast should look like or have the texture of stovetop stuffing.
All right, now for the last meal, which was the Stroganoff, which I am excited about. I think when we taste tested all those other meals, the Stroganoff was one of the best meals we tried. So let's stir this up. I can already see that the noodles have come out a little mushy. I do think it has a good smell. Now, it could be because I let it set a little bit longer, but this one actually calls for 15 minutes setting time. So this one really didn't set that much longer than what it was supposed to. And I'd rather probably have mushy noodles than hard, crunchy beef. Because in most of these meals, it's usually the meat that's going to take the longest to rehydrate. Like, it's just the way it is. This one's maybe one of the smallest amounts of food. And since I am a person who loves beef and noodles and stroganoff and mushrooms, I definitely wouldn't want to share this plate. But let's see how it tastes. It's not real liquidy. Like I said, the noodles look like they got a little bit mushy, but that could have been my fault. I'm going to give it a try. I mean, I guess it's not bad. It's kind of like a slightly tough steak texture. It's actually not. It feels like real steak. So I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. The noodles are kind of mushy. The flavor is not 100% there, but it's not terrible. Yeah, some of the meat's a little tough. Not tough as in not hydrated all the way, just tough as in it was kind of like a tough or gristly piece of meat. But it's not all bad. All in all, these meals that we tried from ReadyWise are definitely a vast improvement, like I mentioned, over their basic meals, their non-pro meals. I would definitely be able to survive eating some of these, definitely probably adding a little bit more seasoning to most of them, but they're not terrible. They're starting to get up there to play with the big boys, but they're definitely not 100% on par yet with the other brands of meals that are known to be better, like Peak Refuel and Backpackers Pantry and Mountain House and Thrive Life and all of those meals. But I think in conclusion, what I would say about these meals is the same thing I said when we did our other video. Honestly, just start buying. If you're interested in stocking meals like these or using meals like these, whether it be to keep on hand for preparedness, or some people will use these if it's just them and their husband or them themselves and they have a busy night and they need a quick meal, or like we use them for travel a lot. Camping, they're great for camping. If you feel like you want to stock them for any reason, just buy one of lots of different brands, lots of different varieties, and just give them a try. Because sometimes it just comes down to individual tastes as well. Even when we tried lots of different brands, sometimes he or I would like one brand better than the other. And sometimes we liked several brands equally, but they just were slightly different. So they gave you a little bit different variation on something. So I would recommend these meals as being decent to try, but try lots of brands and just see what you prefer. And I will put links down below to that video where we tried all the different brands, because we had a lot of fun doing that and people really enjoyed that. And I'll also put links to some of the videos where I made my own meal pouches kind of similar to these, in case you're interested in that. I hope you've gotten some good ideas for prepping items to pick up at Tractor Supply if you have one near you. And maybe open your eyes a little bit to what they have to offer if it's not a place that you've ever shopped before. If you are a Tractor Supply shopper, what are your favorite prepping items to buy here? Maybe you can point out something that I didn't mention or that my store doesn't carry. Keep in mind, Tractor Supply also has a good selection of items that are only available through their website, but I tried to focus just on things that could be found in the store. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a tractor emoji down in the comments and check out this playlist next to see some other store-by-store prepper guides. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.